All right. Thank you, everyone. So I'm going to continue. I'm probably one of the only one that without name showing up. It doesn't matter because I do the work. I'm also think about like I'm the narrator, just talk about what's happening. But a little bit about myself. My name is Gangshi Hu, and I joined Praxair and now Linde for 10 years. And then my work experience is kind of simple, working with Jesus in the same team, no matter what name has changed for the past 10 years, period. And then, so I'm gonna talk about next slide. I will give a try on this challenging machine and see how it works with. It seems like I shouldn't go back. All right, so this is one way. All right, thanks everyone. The challenge about digital procedure. And then what has been talked about by Sandy and Jesus is quite descriptive about the challenges we've been seeing. So I was told now to really talk about what type of system we selected. That's true. Actually, I want to talk more about why we pick a particular system and what is needed from our perspective of a digital procedure. So what is actually important, right, in this time of the era was a procedure is not supposed to be a fancier Word document, a fancier paper tablet, a fancier pen that's digital. It's about a different way of organizing the information and make it happen, controlling our plant, and then really shell off the load, the burden mentally and physically from our operators and trying to reduce likelihood of any problem. So connectivity is almost number one things we're looking for a digital procedure system, which not at the end still have to tell operators, technicians what to do. And actually, if that's already known and well-defined, just go do it and make it happen. Make it part of the control system. So that's the connectivity. And also, we've been seeing like a lot of DCS vendors are already providing a solution that is just build things on top of their proprietary system. That's fine. It's actually designed in many of our functionalities too. But for procedures, it shall be generalized enough. It should be open. So anything should be able to talk to any system. That gives us a lot of ways to expand. Really, we're not depending on the final control system to deliver the result. And yes, it should be automated, right? It shouldn't even require interface, but that's always important because the endpoint is human. It's human-oriented, so we want something to be intuitive. Really, we don't have to teach. Nowadays, no one is really taking a lesson, a course to know how to use an app. And then it should be intuitive enough, and something, we believe many current modern systems are designed to be that way, but we have to say, going down the road, if we still stay in Industrial 3.0, the mindset could be different. Like people are treated like machine to be trained to know how to use a system. That's going to result in more problem than it's going to solve. And then the multimedia and then procedure writers, many things we look for, we want them to be intuitive, but we realize this is not ending, it's an ongoing journey. So we are taking our patient. So the most important thing at the end is actually the partnership with the solution provider. So we're really working closely. We're not waiting until the end and find the silver bullet to solve the problem. Actually, we are building that bullet together with the vendor to conquer the problem down the road. All right, so this is kind of our system, the architecture. Really, I'm not going to be talking about every single line of definition, trying to make sure you'll be able to build it once you go home. It's about high-level picture of what's happening. So there's central machine. It's actually centralized, so we don't have to deal with 100 installations everywhere. People are connected to the place to manage procedures, to use it, and then to interact with our control system. And on the left top corner, that's actually the key of the system, the user group. They're accessing the procedures from different types of equipment. It can be a control machine, a big machine, a laptop, a portable devices or even wearable devices like smart glasses or RealWear. And then with there, using it, they receive procedures, executing it, following what needs to be done, or just kind of give a thumb up, say, okay, move forward and do this for me. And then down to the left, and to the left lower corner is the plant. It's our plant, and also the control systems, PLCs and DCS. In the current set, traditionally, users are connecting to PLC DCS through their interface. They just click buttons or check things and then entering numbers. It's working and it's not going to go away in one day, probably in 10 years. However, we are channeling through the central machine, which will kind of based on the prescribed procedure and action input from the user end. And then going through the communication, its own connectivity to control system, and then exchange information and execute the procedures for operators. And essentially, we're trying to minimize as much as possible and gradually on the manual side, because manual always will result in some uncertainty, and we want to leave that for the most important things, that the isolation safety related items, and then instead of like regularly turning a valve from left to right, that type of actions. And then the right part is kind of different, right? That's really coming a little bit more with the next generation digital system. The writers. Writers tend to be a simple role, like anyone, right, who can write, or nowadays who can type, can write procedure. It is still true, but a little bit more than that. Like Sandy had been showing in the previous diagram, it's a lot of logic. It's not just one way that you are going to be successful. You can see a lot of variabilities during the execution of any procedure. What is going on? How do we deal with it? Logics actually designed to take action or to give procedures, instructions to operators what to do is critical. That's the knowledge, not just a happy wish list on that delivered to operators. And then most of the time, a lot of the time, operators actually develop their own knowledge database in their mind, because the procedure we gave to them, it never works, probably only the first time. And then corner of digital. Digital is our team, but not just our team. It's the team that's maintaining everything. We actually are really introducing and pushing the new generation of procedure system to our company, and also I believe everywhere it's happening for the same reason, because we need more than just a new, fancier system to replace what's existing. We also want to get data out of it, because there are a lot of things happening. It's really invisible, because people write a paper, they don't throw it away, but they put it in a place that's even worse than being thrown. We thought there were data, but we don't know what's going on. No way, or too much hours spent on pulling data out of the procedure. Actually, as a digital team, we really want to have data at our finger end. And then, so we'll be able to do analytics, finding out what's the problem, what is the variation, potential cause of it, and then to the minimum, we can push it into dashboard and then give a quick feedback to the end user and let them know that, this is what's happening, and you probably are interested, and then do something upon that. And so this is a quick overview of the architecture, and then a little bit wordy part on the roles. The users and writers and digital, the plan is default, so I didn't list them, and there's no people anyway. So users are more like operators, technicians. Their job is pretty much everything. We really count on them to make sure plan is running. But for procedure-wise, right, they're actually executing procedures, following instruction, collecting data if this is not something digitally available already. And then and for some procedures, they would have to sign off. And that is what the end user, kind of the direct user, is doing. So for the procedure writers, those are, some places have a dedicated role, the person who writes everything for everyone. And there are some places, the plant superintendent, lead tech, they know everything, so they just write it. And then this setup is the same, but they need to move it to the new platform and in a really more logical way. So their role is about writing procedure, and then they need to understand procedures and the work process very thoroughly, and also keep the instruction really practical. And then they will also need to review. Actually, since they are the procedure writer, they shouldn't just write it off and then never look at it. They should know what's going on and then improve the procedure from time to time. And finally, the digital team. Again, it will be IT, OT, and combination of us as well. So we could be a PSC specialist. We could be a data scientist. We maintain the system, make sure they're running all the time. We also do analytics and then develop dashboards and then collaboratively working with writers and users to improve the overall experience. All right, and then this is kind of the last slide before I start giving a little quick demo. So this is interesting thought from the practice of procedures. There's a wide spectrum, right? But there are actually an interesting subtle line and separating them from two types. One is something that's quite standard, like you cook meal every day, right? It's pretty standard, quick, and then it's not complicated. Really, you don't, well, for cooking, I know you change your recipe all the time, but for a lot of standard procedure, you're not supposed to change at time. It's basically have version 1 5 years ago and version 2 now with minimum changes. And that type of a procedure is like inspection, small, quick inspection, maintenance of some non-critical equipment, which is really short and then frequent, or a calibration of instrumentation. This is something operators still have to do or technicians need to perform, but they are quite standard. And the strategy on those procedures are actually we want to really centrally manage the procedure. Actually, we are, and then so that we know the learnings from many places, so we can come with the best design, and then we can drive for standardization and consistency of execution. And at the end, right, single execution of a short standard procedure really doesn't matter. You can do it better next time. But if you do it 100 times, 1,000 times over multiple years, a decade, you really want to know what's going on. The statistics becomes key. And then we can figure out many things from the data by kind of collect them all together. In comparison, the longer ones, the other side of spectrum is location-specific procedure. But many things can be location-specific, but some things are really location-specific. Because plan and plan are very different. If we're talking about something, the plan startup and shutdown, or a major maintenance, that's probably not going to happen even every year, multiple years. And this is really lengthy, sometimes takes days to complete, and with a lot of uncertainty. And what makes things worse is probably each time is different, because things are changing. For those type of procedures, we still want to make the system, reuse the same system as much as possible, but we have to engage more from site operations. They know their system, their home, their baby, much better than a central person. And then we also are driving for this comprehensive instruction, because it's going to have a lot of variability, need to be really detailed considered. And at the end, right, well, even for 10 years, the startup probably wouldn't go beyond 5 or 10. And then that's not going to give you too much story on the statistics. But each one of them, well, still, is possible. But each one of them is long enough. People want to see the reports. Actually, people don't have good report. They just have the fill out form of the procedure. And then it's hard to interpret what's going on. So that's kind of the different ways, and we all need to kind of handle in the new next generation of the platform. All right, so much about talking, and then we want to give a little bit demo. Again, this is not going to be a long video, and then so don't leave. It's going to be a short ones, one by one. And then this is I like that picture, so I just put it on as a background. Call him Mr. Linde Digital Workforce, and this is kind of too fancy for what he's doing. What's happening is it's still kind of web-based, right? The browser is pull up, and people go ahead and log in to make sure who the person is, and that's almost the most important part of almost every system. Again, it's not trying to impress people like, oh, how fancy the system is. It's about what is is working, how it's working from day to day, and then where people will be interacting from end user point of view. Now, next one is the types of procedure. So there are certainly procedures are organized as like you have something that's quite standard. It's a proof list. Just when ready, just go pick one and start it. And then something that's already right or running, you don't want to confuse it from the one that's approved. And versus the one that has been completed, the same procedures probably have been completed 100 times, and that's completion list. So the platform will be able to give you the choice of what's approved, what is that active, and what is the completed list. And then something also interesting, right, is actually to really phase people into the platform was they still want to see a paper, or worst case, to the minimum, a Word document, a PDF, to give them like a sense of security that I'm not working with a cloud, I'm working with something I know. Yeah, actually that's true, right? At the end, people, if they want to print it out, a export of a PDF version is always welcome, and then for a long time it's going to be necessary. And then to the minimum, people can pull it up and then print it out, use it as a paper, got a paper on clipboard, and they can still do their job without any problem. Though that's not what we want them to do, we still want them to really just use it. That's going to be their future paper and pen. And now authentication, right? That's kind of, I don't know, I mean, it's really, it depends on the level of security. So sometimes people really want things to happen until someone says yes, and sometimes just go ahead because you do it every day. But in case you need authentication, so when you run into a certain procedure, operator will run into like the authentication approval request. And what's going on is plan manager or the person with authentication authority will be able to go from their end, right? They should pay attention, but again, they can just pull up at request and go ahead and continue approve it because it's supposed to be interactive process, and they don't really have to stand beside each other. The approving party can really kind of stay in another place as long as they have the authority and the knowledge of what's going on. And then finally, I shouldn't say that. I'm too eager to complete. The connection. Actually, that's the key of control system. No, the next generation procedure, because we want not only this procedure at the end tell operator, okay, click this button on page 5 on the left corner and make sure that says a flow controller, whatever 500, right? That's fine, but that's really no different from a paper. We want this to happen. Actually, if we know what's going to happen, why don't we just execute it and then take down numbers? And that's really the connection part. This is a minor, really, demonstration. Just saying, okay, if people are taking action, the system is taking action, it's going to operate your plant and make it working. And then this is a simulation, but for real plant, it will be the same case. Probably one thing to clarify, right? People sometimes will be scared about, oh my gosh, my plant is controlled by my cell phone. It's not. It's controlled by the central server. The cell phone is you. It's the person who gave permission. And still, it should be intrinsically safe to do the job. And then this one, right? I want to show like the idea about sharing the information. Procedure. When I go to plant doing some experiment, the most frustration experience, not the most, and a lot of frustration happening. So one of them is I need to know what's going on. Where is it? It's in the procedure. Halfway done, 75% done. I don't get it. The most known thing is the paper SOP. People sign off, and I go and find out. And then if I'm not there, I wouldn't be able to do. I have to call people, and then it really depends on who is picking up the phone. The person may not know it at all where we are. So we really want to see like what's going on. I mean, like sharing the information, not just a place. Only the person watching it can see in a centralized, isolated location. So the idea was like control room can see something, and then they take action. All the things are updated at the same time. I mean, it's like just deliver the information, update it, so that no matter person is from the remote center, a superintendent, or a support engineer, they will be able to see what's going on without really spending time to talk to each other. No, talking is fine, but just sometimes they introduce more mistakes. Just to understand what's going on, where are we, and then information is out there. Just go check it out yourself. And this is probably the final demo, right? You can tell by the name, completed procedure. So once it's completed, things will go into the completed list without any surprise. And then we'll be able to see what's there, and that's the list. And then also the completed procedure. And that's important. This is not just another copy of the original one. This has been filled out magically. So really, anything that you clicked, you entered, will come here, including, and now together with your timestamp. So it's like a full history, really rich. Again, even this is not the central piece in the future. I mean, we don't need to have the PDF for people to know what's happening. All the data are actually saved in the centralized database, ready to be processed for additional advanced processing algorithms. And then that's about it. Mr. Digital workforce is happy, and then that's what we're not done yet. This is still running, and I can see a lot of challenges down the road, but sharing experience with all of you, and then trying to see what's going to happen, and then we want to see more and more kind of the effort to push this digital procedure platform into a really powerful future. So on our side, a few about next steps, right? We had actually already picked, so the previous demonstration may not be exactly what we do, it's similar, but we just took an example. So what we had was a side we picked, really willing to step up and take challenge with us. So that's in Texas. We will work with them and train the the site operations. It should be not that hard for them to receive training. And then the plan will start using it and then gathering, so just kind of replacing their existing procedure execution. And at the same time, we're going to finally start getting data into our database. And then thirdly, the low frequency, high complexity procedures like startup, we're not gonna see that like tomorrow. So it's gonna be maybe next year. So it's gradually phasing in. And eventually, as digital team, right, when we get more data, we'll be able to do the analytics, and then we will be able to reward the plant with the insight and opportunities from their data. So they're not just taking kind of the risk, eating the crab, they will find it's really delicious. Takeaway, right, is, to be honest, it's really difficult to push to bottom up, because people don't want to change. So we find buy-in from leadership, and sometimes kind of even the top ones from the unit is critical. So they know what's the problem. They will give us the support, everything we need. And then we will have a higher chance of success. And thirdly, we should be reasonable. Don't just tell people like, you know what, I've got this thing, right? It's like replacing your laptop. Laptop is the easiest one, kind of throw the old one, put a new one, but still have a lot of things to configure. Now, don't mention that this laptop is still kind of in the building process. And then also the existing procedure is difficult because they are there. They are the assets. They are the value. We cannot just say, okay, forget it. Let's design it from scratch. We have to transfer all of them, not all of them, but a huge amount of them at a reasonable cost and pace to make sure things are smoothly transferred to the hand of operations. I think that's the end. I guess if there's a